Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street with small business lenders who help it grow. Lance, good to see you. Katie, good to see you. Missed you, Lance. Welcome back. Glad to have you back.
Be here today.
Cool. Let's see. We got a ton of news today. Thank you all for joining us. We respect your time, so let's get to it. Number one, what program had the highest percentage of total SBA administrative expenses? Katie, what is your source for this?
This is going to be from a recent GAO report. They were looking at administrative costs in general, specifically with SBA. So this is something that's been discussed a lot, and I think we actually kind of tripped people up on this. The answer was EIDL, and the reason for that was because that program is actually run by the SBA, whereas PPP, some of those expenses that the SBA would have had to have covered was instead on the lender's side. So the lender took some of that away. So that was not PPP, it was EIDL.
And what were the percentages, Katie?
I don't have those stats in front of me. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we'd answered, the poll was 24%. EIDL was well over, I think you said 40%, 50%. PPP was less because they didn't have direct expenses, and then the general salaries and expenses. Now this is interesting. Oh, here, I have the numbers here. EIDL was 67%, so it's pretty significant. SBA was only 10%. Number two, what obligations? I'm sorry, Lance, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the EIDL program was big. It was not big in dollar amount compared to PPP, but like Katie said, this was a program fully ran by SBA. So it took a lot of people and a lot of administrative expense to administer it.
And help me out, Lance and Katie. Where are we on the EIDL? Are they still funding it? Is that sunset? Is there money available? I don't follow it that carefully because it's not a lending program. Katie, do you know?
Yeah, EIDL is still available, the loan itself. The advance has run out, and I think they've refilled it a couple times, but it is out currently. But you still can get an EIDL loan right now.
Okay. Number two, what obligations and outlays had the highest percentage of administrative expenses for the United States Small Business Administration?
This is a tough one, but
they got it right. The contractors, they said 54%. The answer is actually 77%, which means SBA has done a lot of outsourcing. Overtime, they said 17%. Actually, overtime was only 6%. In general payroll, 14% versus 30%. So the general consensus is they got it right. The numbers may be off a little bit. But Lance, what does that tell you? You work for SBA. Is that having that many contractors? Is that a problem?
Yeah, they certainly did not have enough employees, full-time team members to handle PPP and EIDL and the other programs that SBA's had. And Bob, this is not unlike our recession back in 08, 09. When I was at SBA, liquidation activity was very high, and we had to hire a number of contractors on in-term positions to help take care of the volume of activity. So I'm not surprised at all by that, Bob. And the reason they would use a contractor in this circumstance, you put a full-time team member on, you can't just say, okay, your 1 year is up, thank you very much, or your 2 years are up, thank you very much. You've got a full-time team member. Contractors, and I don't know if it's still the same way, Bob, but they're typically hired in a term position, which has a start and an end date. Many of them become permanent SBA employees, but not all of them will.
Very good. I want to talk about the budget for next year. Now, the budget for next year, we're talking fiscal year 22, so that begins October 1st, 2021. Because as of the end of this month, we're halfway through the budget for 21, and ends obviously September 30th, 2022. So what is the administration proposing? It's still a little in flux, but basically these are the numbers we've come up with. Is it down? Is it even? Is it up? And if it's up, how much?
Bob, I don't know, but I'm going to go with the crew here.
They got it right. It's up 8%.
They would be
right?
right, yeah. So of course, the budget is still in flux. We've seen a couple iterations already. It has gone down about 1% from the last iteration, but this still is up significantly higher than the previous year, seeing as we had several years worth of cuts before this. So it's definitely something SBA is looking forward to, and you are hearing Congress, they do really like this concept of raising it. So I think no matter what, we're probably going to get it going up. What that final percentage is probably going to get adjusted, but we are hovering at the 8-9%.
From a historical perspective, this is the strongest the agency has been with its reputation on Capitol Hill, even despite the PPP fraud issues. It is a bipartisan effort now. Everyone is on the bandwagon for supporting the small business. They understand the importance of supporting Main Street. Lance, it's truly bipartisan, and it's a little bit different attitude. This was a giveaway program to political cronies when you and I started this back in the 70s.
Yeah, Bob, I've been through numerous periods where everybody was told to get their constituents to write their congressperson to keep SBA alive, but things have changed over the last few years, and I think the first significant change, Bob, was when SBA, the administrator, became a cabinet-level position.
Right. Yes.
And then PPP and EIDL occurred, the pandemic occurred, and SBA is in a much stronger position than they've ever been.
For a history lesson, just a couple of things. Number one, SBA started as a direct loan program. And what that meant is that you had to go and get 3 turndowns from banks, and then you applied directly through the agency, and the government funded it directly. To really go down the rabbit hole, the assassination attempt on Richard Nixon with the airplane, remember that, Lance?
Yeah.
Yeah, that in Baltimore it changed TSA, well, also changed SBA. All right, I'm going way down there, but this is SBA has been significant in its evolution. Now we have no direct loan programs, and that was what was the highly critical part, is that there was a lot of political pressure to make this loan to this person. Now you don't have that. Obviously, you have direct loans for disaster, but you don't have a way for the politicians to get in there and push people to do things. Would you agree with that assessment, Lance?
Absolutely, Bob. It has evolved over the years. I remember back in the day carrying gigantic applications in that included turndown letters from financial institutions. So it's changed dramatically over the years and evolved and strengthened.
Evolved for the better. Absolutely. Yeah.
I honestly, Bob, in my 30 plus years of working on SBA projects, working with SBA's in the strongest position it's been in my lifetime.
Well, it's delivered. It's delivered, and the numbers are there, and the results are there. Katie, real quick, what else did, this is Chairman Nydia Velazquez. She's out of New York. What did she say about the budget for SBA?
Yeah, so she's just basically applauding the new budget, saying that she really is appreciative of that 8% increase after a few years of having cuts. She's also saying, it's not in the quote here, but she did say that the new budget wants to focus more on reaching a lot of those small businesses that are minority-owned, veteran-owned, things like that. We've seen a lot of success with PPP doing that, especially in the most recent round, and they want to continue that throughout the program in various other aspects. Obviously, PPP is over, but they want to focus on that more in 7A now and things like that. So going forward, that's going to be intertwined with the budget a little bit and a focus for Congress.
Every month we do the top 10 things that your senior management, the board, C-suite need to know about. Joseph, go ahead. Go ahead to one more slide. Go ahead to the actual top 10. Let's go one more. Okay, let's go with this. I'm sorry for that. It's all, but this is an idea of what we've done. Katie, take us through this, and Lance, comment. I guess the first one, Katie, is PPP has ended? Lance, I'll skip Katie, go right to Lance. Lance, is that the number one issue on the plate that everyone needs to know what's going on?
Yeah, well, PPP's ended, but Bob, forgiveness has just begun. And so PPP will be...
You're off script. Look at number 2.
Well, 63% of 2020, it does not include any of the 2021 loans, but we'll be dealing with forgiveness for a couple more years, most likely. Right. Could extend longer. I think everybody who wanted or needed a PPP loan probably should have had the opportunity to apply by now. You know, there are always going to be people that bark and say, I didn't get one. Well, you had somewhere in the ballpark of a year and 2 or 3 months to get one. So there were plenty of opportunities.
Yes, Sizzler didn't get one, and they sued the agency. But you know what? SBA turned down. They're in bankruptcy.
There's always going to be people that sue the agency over a program like this, just like people complain when they don't get their PPP loans exactly when they want to, Bob. It was a huge undertaking for SBA, a huge undertaking for all the participant banks. And so there will always be complainers, but it was a great program. It did what it was supposed to do. And now we get to live through forgiveness.
And we cannot, and I think we forget this at times, but the speed that the agency moved in getting out the first draw PPP loan, as well as the second draw and building that whole infrastructure within a year, I mean, that is standard. So we need to give credit where credit is due. They did a great job on that, Lance.
Absolutely. Now, when we get to number 6 and we talk about fraud, Bob, and I hate to skip, but I believe the second round may have as much, well, I think it'll have more in numbers in terms of PPP fraud, but the dollar amounts will be.
Dollar amounts are going to be less. Yeah,
It's not going to be Lamborghinis or expensive homes or Learjets. Well, of course, Learjet's not a thing now, but jets bought. But I think the number of potential frauds committed in the PPP program, those will be pretty high in the second round.
Katie, what did you pick as the number 3 topic?
Yeah, number 3 is looking at 7A and its increase between not only last year, because that's a little unfair to just look at that considering the pandemic was going on, but the year before as well. Specifically just looking at how it compares to a pre-pandemic world. And 7A lending is up. It crossed over around the end of last month. And now this month it's over 6.7% higher than it was in 2019, meaning we're above pre-pandemic levels now. And I think that's important to consider, especially since the program could potentially need the administrator to use her authority to increase the funding, given that we could possibly run out of funding if she doesn't do that. 7A is a very popular, 7A is a very popular program, and it's something to be watching. 504, we already kind of knew, it's not on the list, but that's also up. And now that PPP is over, those programs are going to be much more attractive and gain a lot more traction.
What Katie has done on this, we're just going over the top 10, and then she goes in the report, we go into further detail. So when she says number 5, Katie, you talk about the fraudsters and recovering $600 million. We put that into context, but that I'm focusing on that $600 million. That's a big number for recovery, and the government got it back.
Absolutely.
Right, and there's actually millions more that they've found and they're working on, and I think they've probably reached, if not over $1 billion, close to $1 billion that they're currently working on recovering, and I believe they will actually succeed in recovering that as soon as, of course, they prove all of these are actually fraud and things like that, which is a bit of a process, but this has been kind of expedited. If you look at previous cases of funding for situations sort of like this, you usually see the fraud coming out a little later, and this time they're really going strong and hard and focusing on it, on handling that right away. So while it seems like a lot of fraud all at once that we're hearing, it's really they're just being way more aggressive than in the past.
Number 6, Lance, would you agree with our number 6 about employment,
I do.
qualified labor?
Finding employees, and the other issue, Bob, that you could tack on to that is supply chain issues. I hear from small businesses over and over. I talked to a guy who owns an outdoor store and he sells bicycles, and he doesn't sell the $199 one. He sells the $1,000 bikes. He's completely out of stock and can't get bikes in for several months. Talked to my brother yesterday, getting appliances into his store. He was very worried because he sold 12 washer dryer pairs in one day. And he's like, if I do that 2 or 3 more times, I won't have inventory and won't be able to get it in. So supply chain and employees are both a big small business issue. And I hate to jump down, Bob, but one that's near and dear to my heart. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Katie has one that's near and dear to my heart. The end of the 11-12 payments. We're going to find out how well our existing portfolio is doing now because the 11-12 payments have ended.
Right. Very good. Well, the purpose of this exercise is to, at the end of the month, to take a step back, to give it to your management, to your board of directors, people who aren't involved with day-to-day, and say, hey, these are the important issues that you need to worry about. And I think we do a good job. Real quick, Joseph, go to number 1 and you get an idea of what she does. Go to a chart. I like charts. Let's go to a chart here. There we go. So, and it breaks it out. It makes it easy to understand. So someone doesn't have to dissect what the numbers are, what's going on for that. So it gives a very clear and concise report. So good job, Katie.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. I believe that's it. Do we have any questions outstanding? I hear a 1 sec in the background there. So we'll get that out. While we're waiting for that, Lance, we're doing a webinar in an hour. Tell us about it on restaurant financing.
Bob, we're going to talk about underwriting the restaurant loan. And of course, my main comment is not all restaurant loans are necessarily bad loans. There are plenty of good opportunities in lending in the restaurant space, especially to those who have evolved and changed as a result of the pandemic. So, and I've said this over and over, Bob, the statistical information presented is worth the price of attendance.
So we have that. And also Katie's guide. Katie's
oh, absolutely.
Done a nice guide. All right, we'll finish with this question. And Raman asked, for folks with multiple businesses with various partners, is there a maximum combined idle loan limit? I don't know. Do you know, Lance? Do you know, Katie?
I do not. I haven't followed that close, Bob.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Raman. We don't follow that carefully because the lenders aren't involved. But other than let them know. But I don't know. I don't even want to speculate. But what I would do is I would reach out. You can reach out directly to the disaster people or your local SBDC. Our friends over in may know that very well, and obviously the district offices. Well, Lance, Katie, thank you very much. And that we'll talk about this tomorrow. But this is a new website we're launching in conjunction with the webinar on SBA Restaurant Finance Report. Is strictly for restaurants and SBA financing. Thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's. I got a lot of nice comments. Yes, you weren't here yesterday, but we were talking about hamburgers and so hamburger joints. So 2 days in a row, we're supporting hamburger joints. One entrepreneur
Bob,
at a time.
The picture of the hamburger on the restaurant
I know.
I'm hungry.
It's only about 2,000 calories, so don't worry about it. Very good. See you all tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.